Cordelia, welcome to UCAN Group. I'm so happy to have you here. I know you're laughing because of my preparation.
I'm not laughing.
All joking aside, it's great to have you here. The Rebellious Business Coach, I've been super excited to have you here. As you know, we're inviting different people on to have some interviews. Well, we say interviews, more discussions about the topic of coaching, where you've had coaching, and I know you're a coach, but more specifically on any challenges that you've went through or changes, whether in your business or personal or career, where you've engaged with a coach or had a mentor that's really helped you through. And it's to talk about the significance of that transformation when you've had somebody to help you through. So at UCAN Group, we are working with individuals, entrepreneurs, business owners, and some athletes on ways around they can take what they've got just now and reach that next level of performance, focus, potential, but ultimately happiness in their life. And the coaching is a big aspect that we're going through there. So I know you very well, Cordelia. I think the first time we spoke was just over a year and a half ago. You're a big inspiration for me, what you're doing on the Rebellious Business Network. So I would love for you to introduce yourself to our audience that's watching and give us a little bit of your background first.
Well, first disclaimer, I have a 12-week-old puppy roaming the house right now, and I can't promise he's not going to make any noise because he's currently rattling around. But it's an honour to have been asked to come and have a discussion with you. My name's Cordelia. I'm the Rebellious Business Coach inside the company Rebellious Business, and we work with consultants, coaches, service-based business owners, basically to help them find more clients online. And it's interesting, this is an interesting topic because I was just thinking as you were talking there, and you've really inspired me to go and do this. But I wonder how much I have spent on coaching. I think it would be nearly around, stop biting my feet. It would be around 100 grand, nearly, maybe, at least 60. On coaching from where I started to where I am now. So I massively know
what sort of year span is that? What sort of time frame is that in?
David, can we start again? Just because he's actually biting my feet. Am I going to go put him in the crate? It's like, just because we've only just started.
I'm quite enjoying it. I think we should just roll with this.
Just give me 1 minute and keep this in as a blooper. Like, I really don't mind. But puppy's eating my toes. Just give me 1 minute. Come here, crazy boy.
This is gold. This is definitely getting kept.
Here he is.
Well, do you know what? Oh, gorgeous! Absolutely gorgeous. Well, what else do you expect when you're on with the Rebellious Business Coach?
Well, it's funny as well because you're talking about how I've got, I run a 6-figure business. I've got kids and whatever. I've also got a puppy that I bought like halfway into a training course. Halfway into a training course where I am, I'm teaching people how to get to 10 figures. I have this puppy all of a sudden. I'm like, this is a really bad idea.
This is a great example for high performance, which is one of the things that we're going to touch on today. So I'm really glad that you've brought this up.
Shall I go put him away?
It's up to you. I'm happy to roll on. If it gets uncomfortable, you can. But yeah, he's fine.
Right, we'll roll on.
She. Sorry.
He,
yes. He's fine. Keep going. I'm still rolling. Just keep this. It's a good discussion with the Rebellious Business. This gives everybody a great insight to you and a lot of the reasons about getting coaching and getting to the place you want to be. Because where you are, Cordelia, and we're stepping off of where we're going to go, but this is where you've been an inspiration to me. The first time I spoke to you, you were still nursing.
Yeah.
I was still in cycling. I was working for the company in project management then. But the way that we were speaking, I was giving you my ideas about my next 5 years and about working with the youth and everything else. And we were talking about where we wanted to be. And this is a great illustration for me, for anybody that's looking at getting help to get to where they want to be. Because you and I both have came on that journey. And, it's funny, I did a post today along these lines. Strange how things come up, isn't it? But you're now sitting doing what you said you wanted to be doing. Puppy in hand, everything going crazy, business getting built, kids going on, but it's all part of it, isn't it?
It's absolutely mental, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
Exactly. Exactly, and that's what we said when we first came on. Like, so don't worry about it. I'm in the house. I'm in the countryside. You know, what's going on outside doesn't really bother me because I'm where I am. But that's because you've went and got the assistance and the help where you've needed it, and put in the hard work and the effort to manifest that and make it happen.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And so, and you know, like I just said, it's not, you know, it's not about the money that I spent on it. It's the risks that I've taken. It's the hoops that I've jumped through. It's the having that feeling of, I am going to make it. I'll just put the dog away. Hang on. Come on, you little monkey. Come on. I know. Okay, back in the room.
And we're back. As long as you don't mind, I'm keeping all this. This is just getting as one big discussion. This is lovely.
I mean, but look, no one's watching by now.
I think it's fantastic.
It's flicked off. You're gonna have to edit all that crap out. But yeah.
Last was only 10 million views, so we should be fine. Yeah, but back to taking the risks, because I resonate with that. But you go, please.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it's what I was saying just on this, because I've not really spoken about this before. So it's just, I've not really sat and thought about it, of like the coaching that I've had or the investments that I've made and how that has got me to where I am now. And you know, the thing is that I started out in business back in 2014. I mean, I've always been like selling things on eBay, but I mean, I got my first like proper limited company back then, right? Toy Ride Limited, we were, logo made and everything. And you know, it's the case where you think, well, I've got the logo, I've got my products, getting it out there, and then it's like, where's the sales?
Yeah.
And then like the sales come, and then it's like, oh shoot, I've got returns, and oh no, like I've got port fees, and I've got this and I've got that, and I never made any profit in that business. It was just really freaking stressful, if I'm honest. And that time, I remember feeling like I knew no one that was trying to do or was doing what I was doing, which was trying to start an online e-commerce business. Had no one around me, no friends, no one in my like community, no mentors, just no one. Like all of my family are very entrepreneurial, but they're brick and mortar entrepreneurial. And so nobody like knew that kind of thing. The difference between trying to go and do something on your own that's difficult in the sense that you've not done it before. Because look, learning the alphabet's difficult if you've not done it before. Like it's just the way it is. And trying to do that without a mentor or a coach or a trainer or a tutor or someone that can say, yes, you're on the right track, or oh, here's an alternative perspective, or how about doing it like this, or you know, giving you advice or feedback or whatever, and accountability as well, right? Then like compared to actually having that support.
Absolutely. And I resonate with that a lot. You know, we spoke very briefly before about when we first met, the place that I was in as well, and how, if I had to jump back a little bit, with one of my clients just last week, I spoke about this topic for the first time, believe it or not, about what I had actually invested in myself over the last 5 years. And it's just a little bit higher than what you mentioned. Oh, is it? Because, but I hadn't put much thought. I mean, and I'm in the same sort of, you know, online business network as well, and that's investment and all of that, but that's all self-investment, right? It's almost like paying for an education. It's a self-investment for a future cause to get somewhere that you want to be. Like university fees, you pay them up front to go through the studies and get your qualifications for a position that you want to hold later on in your career, or however you want to get that start. And that's the way I see that investment in yourself. And I had never ever looked at it that way before, and kind of stumbled across coaching almost accidentally, you know, but I was in a point where I needed something. And then it presented itself, and that was the thing that helped me get on, and that rolled on to buying into different business networks and different education. So the coaching for me, so if we look at that, because I resonate with that very highly, right? That self-investment, but not everybody values it in that respect, because it's not seen that way, right? You know, almost there's things in life that we pay a lot of money for, but not everybody sees that self-investment as a higher priority than, say, a nice luxurious holiday or a car, right? But let's be honest. That's just fact, because it's not. It's a big thing in some countries, but it's not in predominantly the rest of the world, because it's not what people typically invest in, right? So let's go back to your coaching. So what was the first sort of coaching that you, if you think back, really had? In what area?
Well, I mean, there's two types of coaching generally, right? You can be part of a group, or you can have one-on-one. And so I've always kind of been part of groups, just because it's more affordable. It's cheaper in the sense that one-on-one, having that special attention. But I'm thinking about business coaching. But actually, before that, my first ever coach, believe it or not, was a law of attraction coach.
Oh, why?
Yeah, and I went to see her because I was incredibly depressed. I remember, this is before I started my business. I was a nurse at this time, a nurse with 3 children, all under the age of 4. A really bad relationship, with my ex-husband. I was in this marriage where it was horrible and really unhappy. And working 13-hour shifts as a nurse. And I remember having this feeling at that point as well of like, oh, is this it now? Like, I've got my kids, I'm married, got a car, got a job, I'm on the career. Now what? Like, is that my life now? Am I just on this? Is that me coasting? And I was so depressed. There were days where I just couldn't get out of bed. And it wasn't around that, not having anything to strive for anymore, but it was just around the fact that I had everything, but I was so unhappy because, I wasn't getting to see my kids enough. My relationship with my ex-husband was just it was non-existent. I was like a single mum when I was with the kids, like there was no relationship there. And I was just generally really, really unhappy. And I would be moaning and whinging and moaning and complaining and like really, really down. And I remember my cousin said to me once, she's like, for God's sake, Cordelia, she's like, we've never heard of the law of attraction. What's your language? I was like, what are you talking about? What the hell? And I'm not particularly like massively spiritual or woo-woo or whatever, but I did discover that book, The Secret, which I didn't really think much of. But then I discovered Abraham Hicks and I was like, whoa. So you're telling me that if I change the way I think and I become more positive, then my life will get better. So I've got to change me in order for my life to improve. And I was like, shoot, I'm gonna need some help with this. And then I'm a really positive person now. And I don't write 10 things I'm grateful for every day and worship the moon and all this stuff and hold crystals and all that. And look, I'm not saying anything bad about people that do that. I'm just saying, I'm painting the picture that I'm not really woo-woo, but I did have a law of attraction coach because I discovered Abraham Hicks, and then I found this woman, actually a friend of my mum's, because it turns out my mum knew about this all along, right? But she's my mum. The worst person to never get coaching from is your mother, because you don't listen to her. You just don't. She'll tell you something 10 times, someone else will tell you it, and then you'll even go and tell her this thing. She'll be like, I told you that 10 times. You're like, oh, did you? I didn't even know. Because that's how much you don't listen to your own mum. And I went to see this woman that was coaching my mum, and she was like, dirt cheap, like really, really cheap, like £20 an hour or something like that. And I had some sessions with her, and I did get to a place where I had outgrown her quite quickly, in the sense that I wasn't really getting that much out of the sessions anymore. But for a long period, it was amazing because I was going and I was having I was talking, and then I was getting trained to change that language and to if I had a thought or a belief to send it back to the person that it come from, because it wasn't mine. I was handed that belief by someone at some point in my life. And that's when I came on this personal development journey, and I was listening to Abraham Hicks all the time. I discovered Tony Robbins, and that's when I then discovered the business community that we met in, because they're very much in alignment with that whole personal development journey. So by the time I'm watching all this stuff on YouTube, I then stumble across one of their ads and blah, 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 and whatever. And then, you know, that's when I really started to go through massive, massive personal development change. But that was my first experience with coaching. It was very, very strange. But
and then the trajectory changes, right? And it's interesting that you mentioned that you're outgrown very, very quickly, because depending on what the type of program is, you can sometimes get really, really fast results, right?
Yeah.
They move you forward enough that you're ready for whatever that next step is going to be. And it might not be that specific person that you went to coaching with or mentoring or whatever that is. It just means that you've got to that stage where you're now like, well, now something's really happening. I can move on and get on with something else now.
I think the thing is that you get that you when you're picking a coach, when you're choosing who's going to be, you want to go with the person that is going to teach you how to do what you need to change now, right? So, for instance, like I spent the last coach that I invested in cost me 10 grand for 6 months, right? That's the high level of coaching that I'm investing in now. And it's bloody worth every penny spent. I tell you what, 2 reasons. One is because money, in my eyes, means commitment, right? So if you spend £20 on coaching compared to 10 grand on coaching, not only you, but also that coach are very committed to getting you to that result. And that is just phenomenal how that works. It actually does. Like, you imagine like you get a free course or you spend £1 grand on a course. Which one are you going to actually make sure you complete?
Well, it creates necessity, doesn't it?
It creates commitment, but between the both of you, and it's that to me, in my money mindset now, is just that money just means commitment, which is why I won't let anyone work for me for free. I'm like, no, I don't want you to work for me for free. I'll pay you, or you don't work for me.
Great, I was looking for a job.
Oh well, the team building is going well, but we're not taking anyone on at the moment. and then the other thing that I was going to say is that, you know, although not one coach fits all for the rest of your life. So you won't go with one coach and then that can be your coach until you're 80. Like, you need to pick a coach based on what you need right now, right? So the coach that I've been with, that I've spent 10 grand on, has made me move bloody mountains. Next year, she's not going to be as relevant to me as she was this year, because next year I want to launch events and I want to be launching big, massive conferences and festivals and all this stuff. Yeah. And I need a coach that's done that, right? That knows how to launch an event. And to be fair, I've already invested 16 grand in a mastermind with someone that does events. Yeah. And so, you know, I've already got that next piece of the puzzle in place, ready to go. But that's the thing. And it's not necessarily that you outgrow them. Well, you do. It's that you move into a different space and then your needs change. Absolutely.
Totally. So what would you say to somebody then that feels that they need something but don't know what it is?
Say that again.
What would you say to somebody that feels like they need something
but they
don't know what that is?
Well, that's a bloody problem, isn't it? Right? The first step to solving anything is having awareness. So I would be sitting down asking many, many powerful questions to help them find out what it is, and then be able to signpost them.
But that's what a good coach does, isn't it?
Coaching is just asking powerful questions, right?
And bringing out from within what they don't actually realise is there.
Yeah, because we've got all the answers inside of us. We know what the right pathway is, but it depends what kind of coaching you go for, right? Because see, I'm a business coach, right? But that's only because behind every business there's a person. So I'm a business consultant who's an accredited coach. And the reason why is that behind every business is a person, and the person's got to run the business. So the person needs to be at a 10 out of 10 in order to get 10 out of 10 results in their business.
Absolutely.
Yeah?
Absolutely.
So you know, there's a coaching element to that business consultation. Does that make sense?
Yes.
I think there needs to be the both, hand in hand. I think it's, you know, I think you can't have one without the other if we're talking about business.
Well, it's like you said, it creates necessity and accountability, doesn't it? And without it, it doesn't. It's almost like just show up and we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
And that isn't going to move anybody forward. It's not going to give the person doing the coaching the gratification or the satisfaction for taking somebody on a journey. And the person turning up isn't going to treat it with the contempt it deserves, really. to get themselves moving forward. They've got to be like, you know, really, really, really committed to their own self to get something out of it. And that's like beyond belief almost. You don't even need a coach if you're that committed. You'll forge your way forward.
Yeah.
But that's not really the case in anywhere, is it really? So then, what would
I
you...
I think every coach needs a coach. Like, have you got a coach, David?
Absolutely.
Oh, good.
Absolutely. Cost me a fortune, and she's the best person I've ever met in my life, except for my wife, of course, and yourself. Have to put that in my wife's outside. But I mean it anyway. No, but I've like you, invested heavily, and I was really lucky. I met a high performance coach, and I'm doing high performance coaching some time ago, and now I've went through different stages of that journey, and she has brought out to me things that, you know, half an hour before the session I wouldn't have thought would be there. And that's the power behind it. It's somebody that, so I would say if somebody was asking me about a coach, I would say you have to find somebody that, one, is in the area that you want to develop in, right? That's clear, right? If you want to learn how to swim properly, don't go and get a basketball coach. Kind of obvious, but it is the same thing, isn't it? But you need to find somebody that you can actually work with and who's going to be a good fit for you as well. And I see that on both sides. Like, if somebody comes to me for coaching, then it needs to be a good fit for both of us. It's not, I can't just step in and coach anybody, because if you're constantly having to convince somebody, it's not really going to go anywhere, and you're not going to get the satisfaction or the growth or the development or the change that you're really there to provide, and you're not going to get it either. So for me, meeting the coach that I have just now has been monumental to my growth and development over the last 18 months. Oh, massively, massively. So if the law of attraction was the first experience in coaching, and then that opened your mind to what was out there and where you could get some more assistance and help to be mentored or coached or whoever that was going through, what's your experiences with coaches in general? I know you said that the lady you've been working with now has been amazing, and you outgrew your mum's friend that was doing the law of attraction coaching back then. So in between that and now, what's been your experiences with coaches in general? Like, have you had some coaches that didn't really work out and you had to move on, or what's been your experience overall?
No, I wouldn't say I have. I think every mentor and every coach of mine along the way, some of which, by the way, don't even know I'm their student. They've never met me before.
Yeah.
Because let's not forget about, you know, Mel Robbins and Rachel Hollis, who do live coaching and audio books and stuff that, you know, allow us to do this personal development work ourselves as well. And that's a really great place to start for someone that just doesn't have the investment right now. It's just go to the personal development stuff and look up Rachel Hollis, look up Mel Robbins, Tony Robbins, and there's some incredible thought leaders out there who are great coaches, but you're not going to get anywhere near as fast or as an impactful movement as you are if you work one-on-one with someone. But my like, you know, my experience with coaches is that, like, there is a massive difference between group coaching and one-to-one. Group coaching is great and one-to-one is great. They're both very different. The learning environment in group coaching is very much like you're taught in a way that you can't be taught on one-to-one. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
You almost like delivering a presentation and kind of like, you know, whereas when you're one-to-one, it's a very personal conversation.
Yeah.
And I think that they both have their place.
Absolutely, yeah.
And I think that they're both, you know, that they're both very individual things. I luckily haven't had a coach where I'm like, oh, this is awful. Like, every single coach I've worked with has contributed to where I am now. But I haven't invested massively in one-to-one coaching up until recently. So I've been part of group mastermind stuff. You know, I've had 1, 2, 3. I think I've had 3 one-to-one coaches, and the rest of the stuff has been group stuff.
But then would you put that down to you honing in on exactly what you needed at that point?
Yeah.
So you were very specific on, this is the specific area I want or need to grow. Therefore, I'll do some research, and this person seems to be the person either within my budget or my area or accessible or whatever that is, that's the person that I should go and work with.
Yeah, definitely. Actually, there's 4. Just remembered another one. But yeah, definitely.
There's another 10 grand on top of it.
No, this is sort of different. Cognitive behavioural therapy, it's not coaching. Right. But, you know, it's all that kind of investing in yourself, in personal development stuff. I think I really like my favourite coach in terms of just raw coaching, without it being, you know, business or whatever, is Nikki V.
Yeah.
Nikki V is awesome. She's retired now from coaching. Sorry to disappoint everyone. But she taught me how to be a coach. And what I love about Nikki V is that she's got a model. And why I'm thinking about this is the difference between this and cognitive behavioural therapy, where you've got a model, but it's very cookie cut out, and it's very like a process, and it's, you know, you've got a governing board, and you have what's it called? What's that thing called? Supervision. And all of this stuff where it's, you know, it has to be done a certain way, right? And then coaching gets a lot of bad rep because of it being ungoverned, right? We don't have a governing body for coaching. I'm an accredited coach, but there's no governing body deciding whether I'm good enough to practice. Just Nikki V, you know, has decided that I'm good enough to be a master of coaching on her master coach program, and so I am, right? But there's no and that coaching can get really bad rep, and I think that is a double-edged sword. Because I think you'll find some incredibly bad coaches out there that do not even need to be accredited as a coach in order to call themselves a coach. And how do we know that they even got the experience, right? How do we know that they're any good? And so, like, that can be a double-edged sword, don't get me wrong. But what I really like about it is the free hand. Yeah. And I think this comes from me being a nurse, very, very, very controlled by policy, procedure, needing to do everything a certain way, and no room for creativity, even when you know on that person-to-person basis that this method would work better for this person, but you can't do it because you've got to go by what the policy says. And you're having to treat everybody as one, you know, size fits all. Whereas I feel that in coaching you have so much more maneuverability because you're in control, you're in charge of how you lead those sessions with that person, and, you know, where that you're not having to tick boxes and dot I's and cross T's in order to fit through square-shaped hoops.
Absolutely.
You know, and that's what I really, really love. I really love that about coaching. You've got so much freedom and to be creative.
Yeah, because there's a difference of opinion between different coaches about programs, you know, having one program, and I agree that not one thing fits all, right? But what I also believe, being a certified through an institution as well, is that when you've got a good structure and process to fall back on, you can still meet somebody where they are, but you've got the foundational part of the coaching, the education, if you like, the process that you can take somebody through. It doesn't mean that you can't care. I mean, you've got the flexibility to cater that, you know, session by session, or because somebody might come in and go, okay, this week we're going to talk about energy, and they're having a completely different problem in life or in business that you just keep forging ahead because this is what we said we were going to do. It's good to have that structure there so you can say, okay, well, where are you at this point in time? What do we really need to focus on? Do we need to focus on this? Okay, let's go there. But you've still got the foundational part and the structure to bring it in and then adapt to go through it. And that's what I really enjoy about the webbing and taking clients through in the coaching, is having the ability to meet them where they are. Because you know that that's what's going to help them move forward even faster and better, because they'll get more momentum out of that rather than we'll get to that next week. If you keep that in mind, we'll double back and we'll get to that in 4 weeks when we said we were going to speak about it.
To be honest with you, that's the difference between group coaching and one-to-one as well. Is that you have less ability to do that in group coaching. You kind of have to go through a program because everybody's all in different spaces. But I agree, and I don't think on a coaching call, when you're getting on with a client, you should never know what the outcome is going to be, or try and predetermine that, because you're not going to have as much of as an impactful transformation from that conversation than you would if you just let it do its thing.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. So if you could nail down one aspect of coaching, the one benefit that it gives, because I've got my idea about what it's brought me, what would you say that is? Like, taking away the specific, and maybe I haven't really asked that question very well. Taking away like the specific thing that you were in coaching for, so whether it's that event development or whatever it was you were working related through, what's the one aspect of coaching that if you could pinpoint it, that it's really helped you with? Is it focus? Is it awareness? Is it what's the aspect of it that's giving you the most benefit?
It's confidence.
Confidence.
Like, I am incredibly ambitious, and I'll just decide, like, I'm launching a festival next year, and then I'll spend like the next 10 months being like, oh my God, like without having gone through the coaching that I've gone through. So, I mean, some of the leaps and jumps and things that I've done have been really big. And I know that there are many people out there that just wouldn't jump them. And I'm not saying that, I know that that's about my personality type and how I am and who I am, and it's not for everyone, is what I'm saying, and that's okay. Like, there's no right or wrong answer to that. Like, it's about doing what you need to do for yourself and what feels good and what feels like the next logical step. For me, the next logical step always seems to be a long jump. and so having a coach by my side to help me like take that long jump in a way that means I'm actually going to land on my feet has been really, 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 because like, there are times when you just feel like you are playing darts in the dark in a room full of people, and you don't even know where the dartboard is, and it's dangerous and it's scary and it's just confusing, and just trying to navigate your way through life sometimes is really hard. And having someone to just say, like, one, like, you're human, it's fine. Two, like, you're going in the right direction, keep going. I think it's the accountability, it's helping you to see things from a different perspective, because when you're inside something, you can't see it. That's the thing. You need to come out of it to see it. And it can be really hard to open up to people about this sort of stuff,
Absolutely. You just had me thinking when you're saying that. What would you say is the difference between that coach that you've engaged with and just anybody in your group saying that thing to you and giving you the advice?
I'll tell you what it is. A coach never leaves you in victim mode. A coach will get you out of victim mentality, and they'll make you take responsibility for your shit. And you cannot change anything when you are in victim mode. And if you watch this going, what's victim mode? That's the poor me mentality. That's the everything's happening to me and I'm below me. Like, even if it's the worst thing ever, we need to take some responsibility, if not for what happened to us, because this can go as far and as deep as rape and child abuse and some horrendous things. It's about taking responsibility for ourselves, how we respond, how we show up, how we move on from that. That's what I'm talking about. Okay, so not necessarily taking responsibility of like, this happened and it's my fault. Like, if you were in an earthquake, you didn't freaking cause that to happen, did you? Not unless you've got the powers of God Almighty under your belt. But what I'm saying is that, like, it's about taking responsibility for yourself, about taking responsibility for your actions and whatever. And you can't do that with your friends and family, because they just go, oh, I know, poor you. Oh, bless you.
Here's a cuddle. Well, I love the fact you brought that up, because, not to promote myself here, the UCAN group, the what's all came out of that for me in the journey, the master you, and we've got the then turn to help another. Essentially, that's what's come out in my journey, is that level of self-responsibility. And I think you only really get to that once you start gaining your awareness and being able to and it doesn't mean you become, it's not like I'm a pure master of myself, I'm a Jedi master me. It's about master yourself enough so that you take the level of responsibility that you need to get yourself to move on and pick yourself up and get if it's coaching, get the help, or just take the steps and the action that you need to move on, and don't sit in the victim mode. Because I sat in that place for quite a long time, blaming peers, colleagues, family members, friends about where I was. And it wasn't until through my journey that I realised that I had to make some real changes within. And that's where the master you comes from. So I'm really glad that you brought that up, because it really resonates with me and my journey. So then, this might be an obvious question. If you were to talk to somebody who was sitting on the fence of, this is something that I would really think I'm doing, I'm looking at this and I'm looking at that, but I'm not really sure that I should do it, i.e. engage with a coach or somebody that could help them to move forward, what would your advice be?
Yeah, I give this advice quite often. It's just, you just got to follow your intuition. There's a difference between your head and your gut. And we instinctively know that. Now, if you're sat here trying to think about it, you're in your head. You can't resolve much from there. So if it's something intuitively, instinctively comes to you, and you're not going, oh, I'm not sure. When we do this, we're in our head. Yeah, when we start and we realise we're thinking, we're in our head. So always follow your intuition. Like, my largest investment as a mum of 3 children and a newly qualified nurse was £30,000 to start my business. And I'm not talking like rent a shop and get some stock. I'm on about like an online business that my whole family, everyone was like, oh my God. But for me, my intuition, like, I knew that this was the next logical step. If I'm honest, I didn't even really know what I was buying and what the outcome was going to be. Like, I just, it felt right. Yeah. And what I would say, and even to people who are having a chat with me about working with me, I say, I don't want you to work with me unless you feel excited. Look, that excitement can be tinged with fear, but this needs to be exciting, and it needs to feel like it's the next logical step. That's how you know you've made the right decision. Yeah. None of this back people into corners and they've got buyer's remorse and all of this. Like, feel excited about whatever step. Now, it may be that you don't have all the details. You don't know what you're going to look like after 3 months of coaching. Let go of it. Like, you can't know. Like, no one knows what's going to happen in the next 3 months. It's not possible. It's unless, like, there's something that's planned. Even that could change. Like, I think the thing to do is you just gotta, even if it feels scary, even if it feels uncomfortable, tap into that intuition. If it feels exciting, if you're like, I just know this could be the thing, go for it. Go for it. There's nothing to lose. There's absolutely everything to gain. Yeah,
absolutely. You just reminded me of a conversation I had a couple of weeks ago with an old friend of mine from Singapore. And he, as we ended the call, he said, David, he said, my motto has always been, I would rather look back and say, oh, well, than look back and say, I wish I did. It's quite a one that stuck with me a couple of weeks ago. I hadn't heard that one before. I mean, there's different connotations to that, but it kind of proved the point about you're only going to get to where you want to be by taking some investment in yourself at some point to get that growth, aren't you? So,
but isn't it? Just to answer to that point, when you look back now and you think, oh my God, what if I was too scared to do this or too scared to do that? Like starting that business and spending all that money on starting that business on a bet, on a gamble that you could actually achieve what you believed and hoped that you could. Yeah. What if you hadn't have taken that chance?
To take that even further, we had some friends on the weekend, and I was talking to my friend and his son, and the point I was trying to get was, had I have done what I've done in the last 5 years, and it should have, would have, could have, right? But when you think back to, had I have been opened up to the prospect of what I've been doing now over these last 5 years, 15 years ago?
Well, I'd have been 12. So.
You would have been 12? Oh, yeah. Right. Sorry. Yeah, you'd have been 12. I must have been 13 then. But can you imagine? No, but all joking aside, if I would have had a more open mind back then, because I did have mentors back then that were telling me a lot of things. I mean, the book, The Science of Getting Rich and Think and Grow Rich, I got them when I was like 16 or 17. I read them for like nearly 10 years, wondering where the message was. It's like, where does it tell you? I've read this book 7 times and I still don't get it. Where does it tell you how to do it? But I hadn't been opened up to the real lessons that were in the book. That might be an age and development thing. But if you think about it, had I have stepped in 5 years before or 10 years before and got the help, the specific guidance and help that I needed to move me forward and where I really wanted or needed to move forward, then things could look very different today. So to start rounding us off then, what would you hope to get out of this discussion that goes out to our audiences? Because you'll share it with your audiences as well. What's the one thing you'd like to get from this? I don't mean like specifically for you, I mean in the message.
What's the one thing I would like people to get from this?
Yeah.
Is that what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know, like, I think the biggest lesson and the biggest, if it was my children, what I would love for them, or if it, I think it's about like following your intuition, following your heart, and taking risks with a leap of faith that you feel like you're going in the right direction. Because the only alternative to change, and remember that every time we change, in every bit of change, whether it's good change or bad change, there's loss. And whenever there's loss, there's grief. And so that's why change is so hard.
Yeah.
And sometimes you've got to go down before you can go up. Done that a few times. But bloody hell, it's worth going down to get up, because what's the alternative? If you're not satisfied or happy with where you are in your life, then you're going to coast in an unhappy place. And for me, like, that's not a life.
Yeah.
I am so damn relieved that I took all those crazy bloody risks that I took to get me where I am today.
Yeah.
Because do you know what? I couldn't go back. I couldn't go back to where I was. Like, I'm starting to feel emotional. I genuinely couldn't go back there.
Yeah.
No. And I'm so freaking happy. Like, my life is amazing. I'm 30 years old, and like, I'm living like such.
You would have been 12.
Life. I would have been
15.
15. Yeah.
Should have said 17 years. Anyway, or 18 if you'd have been 12. Bad maths. No, but listen, I'll round this off with saying, as I said before, the first time we talked was like just over 18 months ago. You are an inspiration, Cordelia. Like you, I've got 3 young children as well. The journey you've been on is great. You've been through your nursing, you've building your business, you had your downs, you've had your ups. One of the reasons I wanted to get you on for this is because I really value your opinion. I think that your story is great to share with people, because it shows people, you know, what we do have to go through to get to the place that we really want to be, and how it can look, instead of just coasting along, as you're saying, and accepting things for just the way they are. You know, like for me, I was at a point where I was like, well, is this me? And I'm looking forward 20 years, 5 years ago, thinking, I don't like what I see in 20 years.
And it's not knowing that there's another way at that point, isn't it? It's being completely oblivious to the fact that there is a way for you to move to a different life.
That's right. Cordelia, I think you're an inspiration. It is great to have you on here. As I said to you before, we're going to get you on the private group as a guest speaker, where we can talk about real life, real challenges, real careers, real businesses, with a group of individuals who are all striving for that next level in their performance, their potential, but ultimately their happiness in life as they go towards their goals and their dreams, and whether it be business, relationships, personal, however that looks. I'm really looking forward to getting you on there. But for now, I just want to say thank you very much. The Rebellious Business Coach turned up rebellious once again. We've had puppies. We've had you disappear for a short time. The suspense was killing me. I think anybody that's watched it through will have a big smile on their face. And for me, it's just gratitude. Thank you. Lots of love towards you. Good luck with the business. I know that it's booming. I'm in your network. It's a great place to be. And I look forward to seeing you again.
Awesome. Thank you for having me on. I look forward to coming and speaking in your group. I've just made David hit record because he's just told you guys that I'm coming to speak in his group. But I reckon he needs to tell you how to join the group, because we've had how long were we talking before we went live? About half an hour conversation about all the amazing work David's doing. This private community sounds amazing. So David, how do people join this group? Because I would love to share this into my community so that they can join your group too.
This is why you are the best rebellious business coach in the world, Cordelia. The only, sorry. Please come and join the group. It is a private community of individuals, business owners, entrepreneurs. We've got some athletes joining, executives who have got a huge desire to get to the next level in performance, potential and happiness. You can join the group by clicking on the link that's going to be in this post. It's You Can Group, private Facebook group, and I look forward to inviting you into the community. Cordelia, I appreciate you. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you.